All right, everyone, it is June. Time flies. Graduations are happening. Summer vacations are beginning. My vegetables are ripening. Days are longer, and I am sure that all our to-do lists are not shorter. That said, it's why I'm happy to say hello and welcome to Refresh, a time to connect, to be inspired, to learn something new, and ultimately feel a bit better about the time we spend together. An interesting fact has continued to pop up as I read through my feeds, and that has to do with the number of women back in the workforce. If you recall, not so long ago in the days of the pandemic, when women were taking the brunt of the job displacement that was going on in the marketplace, the forecasts were bleak. There were rants, there was shouting, there was worry that women would never, or would take 50 years to be able to recover what we had worked for and attained through all these past years. And yet here we are on January, I guess the data is from January 2023, women's overall employment has reached 99%, and prime age women's employment stands at 100% of their February 2020 levels. I find it encouraging, of course, but I also think there's lots of lessons that we could peel away, probably in other conversations, about what we allow ourselves to believe and how we can be led down a path of believing how things are going to go a certain way, and boom, they're not. When it comes to entrepreneurship, women continue to be a driving force, even as the winds of support, especially financial investing support, remain a challenging hurdle to progress. Women have created half of the new businesses in the US in 2022, continuing the trend begun during the pandemic. And there is a romance, a liberating feeling about beginning a new business. Are you romantic, Natalie? I just want to know. How many of
Sure.
you,
For my business, absolutely.
all right, how many of you have dreamed about having their own business? How many of you have seen an opportunity or a problem and everything? I wish it would be different. I wish it would be different, but then turn that into as, wait a second, I can make that different, right? And you dream about how to change what you would like to see different. Well, today we will be inspired by Natalie White. She's a trailblazing entrepreneur who dared to challenge the status quo in the realm of basketball shoes. Her vision to create the first basketball shoe specifically tailored, specifically to the unique biometrics of the female foot. And thus, Moolah Kicks was born. From a senior at Boston College with a groundbreaking idea, Natalie has received widespread recognition and respect because Moolah was named one of the top female footwear brands by Sneaker Freaker. And I have to say, my mother tells me every day I wear a new pair of sneakers, I have to get onto the Sneaker Freaker thing. And you received the Shine Loud Sunday Award from the New York Liberty. And I know that had to be thrilling, recognizing local women who are change makers. You are a change maker. But I know most of all, and you'll tell us the stories about what it's like to see your product on the feet of young girls. What I love about you, Natalie, and we have spoken way early in your journey is you saw a need, you had a dream, and you're making it happen. So let's start right in. Welcome to everybody. And tell me, how's business?
Business is awesome. I mean, I think you teed it up pretty well, Donna, but what's been so exciting is to see the growth in the brand. Like you said, we talked, we spoke we spoke a long time ago when you look at how much the business has grown, but it really has been probably a year and a half since we connected. And I'm so excited to say that in 3 years, it has gone from an idea into our very first run of our Phantom 1 model went into 140 stores nationwide in the fall of 2021. And from there, we released more colorways in spring of that year. And we followed it up by expanding from 140 doors into 500 with the new model that you see behind me, the NeoVolt Pro. And the ride has just been incredibly exciting, growing the team, getting exciting traction from high school teams and from our consumers, and now being able to join you on things like this.
Yeah, I know this is fantastic. And I think what I'd like people to understand, and I think we do, is it is daunting when you have an idea. I know there's a rush and it's exciting, but it's a big mountain in front of you. And you have to have the mindset of, I am going to conquer that mountain.
Yeah,
I would say Go ahead.
I never looked at the whole picture because it's suffocating. You really can't look that too far ahead, or maybe personally I wasn't able to. I almost had to say, okay, what's the next thing? And let me tackle that next item as strongly and as thoroughly as I can. Pour everything into that before we move on to the next step. Because if 3 years ago I were thinking about this past weekend, watching a WNBA player have a killer fourth quarter in our sneakers, I would say, oh my God, how are we ever going to get there? But instead, 3 years ago, I was focused on building what makes Moolah Kicks unique, which is that interior biomechanical fit that you talked about, Donna, saying, how can we perfect step one, which is the fit? And of course, the dream as an entrepreneur is when you step back and you say, look at this mountain that I'm climbing. But when you're actually climbing the mountain, you just have to think about what's the next step that I need, so that I can make sure I'm doing that fully and in a way that sets me up to continue to climb up with strength.
Well, it's interesting now, right? Because you came out and none of the big shoe people, it's funny, I give talks about being a young athlete and I always focus on the fact there were no shoes for me.
None.
And it said two things, right? It said the market didn't care enough about me, my business, who I was, to create something for me, right? So I had to wear boy shoes, right? And so I thought it was a bigger indication about how the world felt about women and women athletes. When you started, there weren't many models from the big guys, right? Do you think since you've been out there more, the competition has noticed you?
I'd say that's one of the best parts. You want to talk about how milestones that we reached. And when I started Moolah Kicks, there were no women's basketball shoes on the market. The last one was in 1998, which was the year I was born. And all through growing up, I had the exact same experience, which is really crazy to think about, that girls were still having that experience of having to shop in the boys or the men's section for their sneakers. And as you commented, that tells you a message as a female athlete, right? Like, oh no, are they really paying attention to me? Is my game is the respect that my game has earned showing that on the shelves? And not only that, the shoes that you're wearing negatively impact your performance, because they put you more at risk for the knee, ankle, and leg injuries that are so common in women's hoops when females are performing in shoes biomechanically fit for males. So when I came out with Moolah Kicks, it's a 1-2 punch. We are a brand that is pouring absolutely everything back into women's basketball for profit. It's not charity. It's by and for female ballers, elevating this game, this sport, and all of the players within it. And then on the court, it's elevating their performance, because all of a sudden the bottom of your feet aren't burning, your toes aren't hitting the tops of your toes aren't bumping up against the top of your shoes, leaving bruises. And when you take off your shoes, you don't have this like instant relief that so much of us are used to, because they actually fit you the entire game. And since coming out with the shoes, we were alone in the category during fall of 2021. And as I mentioned, we grew from 140 stores into 500. And with that transition, we were joined by a ton of brands with their, first women's, whether it's a woman headlining a men's sneaker, or if it's a true women's basketball sneaker. We were joined by Puma, Under Armour, Adidas, Nike, and Puma. Yeah, those 4 brands all joined us in the category, coming out with their first women's basketball sneaker. So I think it's been really exciting to open up this category and these options for all female players.
So we should thank you for that, right?
Well, I think it's just been exciting. I think we have women's basketball to thank, and we kind of have the brands not paying attention to thank, because we're able to, it gave space for us to make a brand that really represents us. And it's awesome when a bigger brand puts one sneaker in a category, but it's one sneaker in a category. And for us, this is all we care about is women's basketball. We're premium performance expert in the space and all we're devoted to. And so I think it's a very different feeling when you buy a pair of Moolah Kicks versus one model from a brand that's also making baseball and tennis, and their attention is split between a ton of sports. It says something that all we care about is women's hoops, and that's where our focus is, and that's where our expertise is. And for players who want to be the best, it really resonates.
Well, okay. So you're at college, you're at Boston College.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of ideas like that you wanted to do? Like why this one?
Well, I think growing up I did. So I think I did tend to see the world, to take that entrepreneurial answer, I did tend to see the world that way in what can I solve for? And I remember, my family used to go to Ocean City, New Jersey when I was growing up for the summer. And I grew up in New York. And there's this popular kids toy. It's called Miyachi. I don't know if have you ever heard of Miyachis, Donna?
I have not actually.
Okay, well, they're hand, it's called the original hand sack. You put them on the back of your hand. Essentially, they're like a hacky sack, but you put it on your hand. So they got really popular at my elementary school in New York. And I thought, you know what, I could buy these wholesale and sell them on the boardwalk in Ocean City. And so I was like in 5th grade selling Miyachis on the boardwalk. And I think I might have sold one. I'm just like standing there playing with a box of wholesale in front of me. And so I think I would say that, did I have a lot of ideas? Yeah. And I kind of always had that spirit to me. But it wasn't the case where I had a lot of ideas sitting in front of me and I said, oh, what am I going to do? I felt like I was always kind of, when I thought about Moolah Kicks, when I saw this gap in the market, it hit me and I was ready to attack it. And I didn't have a moment where I asked myself, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? I was definitely ready.
Were you a basketball player?
Yeah, so I grew up in the city playing basketball. I played on a lot of the AAU teams here. I still play. I won a Dykeman championship last year. So for those people watching, that's a women's semi-pro street ball tournament that's pretty popular here in New York City. So I definitely have that New York City game to me. I have every dribble move in the book, and I can't make a basket to save my life. And I think that tells you that I definitely am from here.
That's really funny. Now, does everyone on your team, when you play, have to wear Moolah Kicks?
They're wearing Moolah Kicks, and they don't have to, no, but they all are.
Okay. Well, I would say they'd have to. Of course they would. I mean, I'm sure if you make it available to them, they'll be very happy about it, right?
Exactly.
Now, all right. So what's your first step? You say, okay, I'm going to do this. What do you do? Obviously, you didn't grow up in a family that was making shoes, right? Whole new industry. How do you approach a new industry?
I didn't know anyone in footwear. I didn't know what it took to make a shoe. And I studied finance and I mean, college teaches you, it prepares you, but you don't really get experience until you start working, right? So maybe college has that mindset where you think you know a lot more than you actually do. And that's probably, it helped that I knew nothing, I would say. So I went into it saying I need to learn absolutely everything. And I think my mentality from the start is to put 110% in, and I'm still this way, to put 110% in, and with the mindset that 5% of it is going to come to fruition. And I think that for a lot of people who want to start a business, that can seem tiring, and because you're throwing so much out there and you're not getting a lot back. And I did that. I was alone essentially for the first 2 years as a solo founder with no funding, and went through with that mentality. And the first step was to create the inner fit of the sneaker, which is the last and what makes it biomechanically fit for women. So how I did that was I used to stand, again, I didn't know how to do research. I'm in college. I would stand outside of the Conti Forum, our arena, and I would pull every single high school and middle school girl that walked into the arena. I would say, what do you like about your basketball shoes? What don't you? Where is it hitting? Where is it not? And I got a lot of this soft research. And then I went to one of the top last manufacturers in the world, which happens to be based 30 minutes away from BC. I called them 22 times before they picked up my phone call. They said, why would you want to come in? I don't understand. And I said, please, 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 just 10 minutes. I'm going to pitch. I have all this research ready. And that was how I got my start. I collected more research than as much as I could, even if it was soft research. And then I went to and worked with the last manufacturer and was ready to pitch it the second I got there.
I called them 22 times.
Mhm.
How many times, we should ask ourselves, are we willing to make a call and get turned down, risk being banned or whatever the other downside risk is in order to get an opportunity? That's tremendous resilience, right? And you didn't even know
Yeah,
anyone was
and
building
you
at
have
the time.
nothing. You have nothing, right? Like I had nothing. So it definitely takes that mentality, because I had that resilience and that want and hunger to say, I promise you're gonna like it. Just give us a shot. I promise. Until it's so tiring, they say, okay, fine, just come in.
Right. So like, and you ended up working with this company.
Yeah,
So-
the CEO happened to be walking by. So everything is like this, it's like I have 3 years of this type of story, but I have this huge pile of research and it's all handwritten. I'm terrible at technology. I'm all handwritten, and I have this big binder of research. It's a small office and the CEO is walking by and he pops his head and he goes, "Who are you?" Right? Because they know everyone. They work with all the big brands and they're like,
where did you
who
come
the hell are
from?
you? What are you doing here? And so I stand up and I introduce myself and I say, I'm making the first basketball sneaker company specifically for women's basketball players, because there's no women's basketball sneakers. And they go, wow, there's no women's basketball sneakers. I explain it. I explain my background. I explain what I'm going to do. I explain how, I'm a student at BC. I'm a senior, but this is my full-time career once I leave BC, and everything that I'm doing. And I'm here now. So I have all the research. I have access to the libraries, and I give him, what we're going to do, what our plan is, and what we're doing now. And his name's Jim Salzano, the CEO of Jones and Vining. And since then, he has been instrumental in helping this business move along. And just last night, I talked to him and gave him an update on everything about Moolah, and I probably still talk to him once a week.
Wow. So he's kind of served as your unofficial, official mentor?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
great.
We owe him a lot. He's been really fantastic to me in this business.
Well, what did they learn? You keep talking about the I'm very interested in this biomechanical, biometric foot difference. What is the difference between women basketball players or athletes and males? What were you able
Well,
to
actually, I
understand?
have both molds if you want to see the differences. If you
I think we want to see them. Yeah, show them to us.
Sure.
This was not planned, folks, but this is helpful.
Okay, so these are the molds. It's all very real. It's cool to talk about in abstract terms, but we are actually out here doing it. So it's all very, very real. This is our mold, which was developed with Jones and Vining. It's called a LAST, L-A-S-T, and this is what I developed with them in partnership about 3 years ago now. And so this is fit specifically for the female foot form. It mirrors it. And during the manufacturing process, materials are pulled over this LAST. The outsole and midsole are stuck to the bottom with cement, and then it all gets heated up essentially and molded to this form. And then the last step in the process is that this gets pulled out on this hook, and then you have your pair of shoes. And so on the line, you have to have one of these molds. And this is what a typical male unisex children's men's basketball LAST looks like. And then this is what ours looks like. So you can see the differences in the arch, in the heel, in what's the top part here, which is kind of like your lateral side of of your top of the ball of your foot there, and really the angle of how the ball of your foot hits. And all of these components are really small differences that over a course of a long time, over practices, games, years of pounding on your knees, ankles, and legs, make huge differences in the alignment of your body and risk for injury.
Wow. So was your the CEO of the company surprised that they've ever created something like this before?
Of course, yeah, they do it in every single sport except for basketball.
Oh, they create women's shoes for every other sport.
Everyone does. There's the only sport that doesn't have women's shoes is basketball.
Isn't that interesting? Why do you think that's so? Now that you know more about the industry.
I think it's because a lot of the brands are selling lifestyle shoes, basketball shoes for lifestyle through the sport. So if you went into some of the financials of some of the bigger brands, you'll see that a majority of their sales off of basketball they're really lifestyle. And basketball is a vehicle through which they're selling lifestyle shoes. And I think perhaps the thought might have been women's basketball doesn't have the same lifestyle impact or reach that men's does, and kind of comparing those two. And we're not focused on the lifestyle component. We're solely focused on the premium performance on court component of the shoes. And that's what allows us to specialize. And I think we're also in a time period where that's changing. I think women's basketball has grown crazy amounts in the past 20 years, and we're going to continue doing so. And I think that 1-2 punch is why you're starting to see some other brands join us in the women's basketball category.
Well, so I have a couple of questions. So are these big brand companies, are they building different lasts to really be women's shoe, or are they just pinking and shrinking it? I'm not saying they're making
a lot of them are pinking and shrinking it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a woman's face selling the shoe, but it's not really a woman's shoe.
Oh, really? So like didn't Puma's just sign a big deal with somebody?
Puma's is women's, Under Armour's is women's, Adidas was an exhibit A that was off of a unisex men's last, and same with I don't know about their recent Candace Parker, but their original was an exhibit A shoe that was an existing model that they had her headline, and then same with the Sabrina Ionescu shoe that's coming out is men's.
Really? Wow. But it's funny, you don't want to limit your market. You mean all the men's shoes that sell a lot have big guys' names, players. They are professional shoes. They're competing in them, but they're lifestyle shoes too, right?
Yeah.
So you want to do the same?
No, we are laser focused on court performance, and that's really that's our niche. That's where we're looking to grow, and that's what our shoes are built to do. And that's also what helps separate us, right? So if you have a shoe you're trading off performance versus lifestyle, and brands are going somewhere in the middle, well, ours have not a strong lifestyle aesthetic and are really geared towards performance. And that's what helps separate us on the court and helps the athlete feel like they're performing their best when they put on our shoes.
Wait. So you think you can't have both? I was told that as a young athlete, I couldn't have both. I would like to think I can have both. Why can't I have something that's incredibly high performance, but actually looks good too?
You can have something that looks good too, but if you, for example, like if you look at the details of the shoe, and you look at compounds on the outsole, if you have a high traction indoor compound on your outsole, like we have, and you wear them outdoors, they will tear up and abrade in triple the amount of time that it would on the court. So they're not super suitable for lifestyle the same way that if you used a compound that had higher abrasion, it has less traction, and that higher abrasion outsole is going to last way longer lifestyle on the concrete, on the street, wherever you wear it around.
Right. I understand. Hi, everybody. If you've joined us, hello in Facebook land as well. We are here with Natalie White, the incredibly passionate founder, dreamer of Moolah Kicks, the only performance women's basketball shoe in the world that I am aware of, right? In the world. We have to talk about international. And I think what's really compelling about your story, Natalie, is this passion. The person who's, was willing to make 22 calls to a company that didn't want to know her. And yet she got in the door, and here we are. The rest is history. I have to say that when I first spoke to you, you had an idea. I think you had maybe a model of your shoe. And then one day, Sherry, if you want to tee this up, I'm watching television and I'm like, oh my goodness, This is amazing. Let's watch it, and then you can tell us the story about how Microsoft found Natalie and then created this ad with her.
When you're little and you see the tickets to your game are half price, you're wearing the boys' hand-me-down uniforms, you just ask why. Right now, a lot of female basketball players are wearing men's and children's sneakers. Children's. I don't think there's a good reason why. I made a brand built by and for female basketball players. I'm using Windows 11 because one day I am the CFO, the other day I am the box designer. What helps me is Snap Assist. It lets me put all of these applications on the screen at the same time. We're not asking other people to make shoes for us. I've got the tools I need. I found myself really using the touchscreen. Windows 11 felt like something that I had been wanting for so long, and we're going to have female players playing in sneakers that fit their feet better. They lace it up and they know they're betting on themselves.
Bravo. So tell us how that happened. Listen, for any of us who have dreamed about taking an idea or a product from here to there, that seems like incredible validation. Tell us how that happened.
Awesome. That was awesome. And it was aired during the WNBA finals, the NBA finals, March Madness. It got over 60 million views nationwide, which is really, really exciting and definitely helped to put the brand on the map in terms of awareness, which can be a really, really hard hurdle to face as a small brand, getting national awareness.
Totally. Well, how did it happen? How did they find you? What, like, did the call come? Did someone have to call you 22 times before you said yes?
No. So someone from a casting agency DM'd me on Instagram and said that they would like me to apply to be part of a commercial. And I said, okay, you know, what is there any more information you can share? And he shared not too much, but sent me some information over email. And so I set up the first interview call, and they were on the West Coast, the casting agency. And I do a few hours here at Moolah. So our first call was at midnight, actually, and 9 p.m. their time and midnight our time. And I was up in Boston, but like in the suit, ready to go. Midnight, told my story, why I started Moolah Kicks, a little bit from what I shared with you guys. And we met from midnight to 1 a.m. and then continued with that interview process. And essentially I went through about, I want to say 15 rounds of interviews, found out that they had gone through over 10,000 applications. So they had asked me to apply, but I was one of 10,000. And eventually when I actually was shooting the commercial, I was told I got it. I flew out to LA and was shooting the commercial. And I said, what excited the casting agency, you know, about me. And so they loved, of course, the basketball focus, the entrepreneur focus, the excitement, the passion, and the difference that we're bringing to the women's stage. But they also said, you know, it stuck out to us that you did your first interview at midnight and you brought the energy at 1 a.m. and we were not nervous about you being ready to show up on shoot day. And I felt like that was something that is so true. And when you ask me what are the 3 things to say, it's always be ready. And it doesn't matter what time it is, you have to bring your A game, because it turns out that very first interview, not the 15th, they basically had decided after I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm available for the call tonight at midnight.
Oh, that is so cool. And what was it like shooting that commercial?
It was awesome. It was really, really crazy. I've never been that was the only time I went to LA, and those stage sets are just absolutely massive. And it was a great experience, and having everyone, they did really a great job with sharing the Moolah brand story and showing the product. And it felt like a really strong collaboration with Microsoft in a way that I'm very grateful for, because it was nerve-wracking to get on that stage and know, same with any PR, you know, when someone writes an article or they shoot footage, they can splice it how they want. And by the end of the day, they've had you say so many things that they can splice it really however they want. So I was nervous about it coming out, and I didn't see it before until it aired.
Oh my
And
goodness. That is,
they
that,
did. I know. And so I was nervous because I wanted, the brand message is something that's really, really close to us and something we value more than anything. And so we wouldn't want that to be misconstrued on such a big stage, but they just did a great job with it, and we're really grateful.
And you did a great job with it. Now, we always, anybody here is on, would like to ask questions. David Weinstein,
Awesome.
please pop it in the chat. I'll bring it to you. But Joy, it's great to have you with us as always. She wonders out loud if your next step could be to make a sneaker for a specific player with foot needs. I guess we have a friend who's a pretty well-known guy. His name is Stuart Weitzman, and he made special shoes for people who had certain kinds of feet. So that would be interesting.
I think that for the next few years, we just want to focus on making sure that who we are is getting out there, and that we're having as many middle school, high school girls playing in our sneakers and loving them, and continuing to put more shoes on feet and get out there. And we haven't gotten any customer feedback yet that has requested for a different type of fit. So I think that we would absolutely do that if that's what our consumers is requesting. But right now it's all about continuing to outfit as many of our female hoopers as we can, and listen to them for what they're asking for.
Now, it's pretty cool because Dick's Sporting Goods, the largest player in the space, is growing with you, right? Which is really great. That says a lot. First of all, what's your price point?
Our Neovolt Pro goes for $125, and we're actually the only sneaker from
how many different models do you have?
We have two models. We have the Phantom 1 and the Neovolt Pro, but the Neovolt Pro is really what is our most recent, hottest model, and that's been on the shelf since the fall, and it remains at full price, which is something that we're very excited about because we've had some pretty good performance on it.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And you said something, I wrote it down, always be ready. So as an entrepreneur, let's talk about some of your always be ready suggestions. I think we have a little graphic, which we always like to do during these sessions.
Well, I can give examples from any time. Like I have so many examples of always being ready, but what I mean by that is that you need to know your business inside and out. You can ask me any question on hopefully any topic, Donna, and I should be able to answer that. And I think that any entrepreneur should really know the details of their business, because the details are what make you great. And always be ready. I'll give an example from yesterday. Hop on a call. I'm here on 55th and 6th in Midtown, New York. That's where our offices are. And I hop on a call with a potential one of an investment group that we've been in conversations with, and I see some buildings. It's an introductory call, and there's some buildings behind her. And I said, "Oh my gosh, are you in Midtown?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Let's come to the office. Let's go meet for coffee. I'll go pick you up a coffee, and we can take this meeting in the office." And in an introductory call, it was an introductory call, but the office is ready. Everyone's here. And the operations are running. We have shoes, we have shirts for her. Everything's organized. And I think it speaks volumes to say, I was prepared. Not only was I prepared to get on a call, but everything stays ready for anything that might be able to happen. And I think it really separates you from other businesses, knowing things inside and out, and always being ready to pitch, always being ready to show up, not needing a lot of information ahead of time because you're really ready to do whatever. Another example I'd give is when we secured investment from Mark Cuban, it was because I had been pitching to his investment group, Mark Cuban MCC, Mark Cuban Ventures, Mark Cuban Companies, and we had gone through a couple of rounds. I gave them the pitch. We've been in strong conversation. And then we landed the partnership with Dick's. And I happened to be in a hotel gym at 10:30 at night. And I ran into him, and it was just me and him in the gym. And I said,
city?
Boston.
Oh my
and
God.
The Mavericks were playing the Celtics. And I said, when he was done with his workout, I said, "I'm so sorry. to introduce myself. I'm sure you have too many fans. And he saw me and he goes, oh my God, you're the Moolah basketball woman. And we sat down on the benches at the gym. And he asked me about what's the freight cost? What's our margins? What date is this shipment landing to that distribution center? 351, whatever it is. I don't want to get into the details on your show, but asked me very in-depth questions, detailed questions only, sharp, no notebook, nothing. And we were able to get the investment a couple weeks later.
Wow. So he's an investor in your company, huh? That's really good. He is the dad of daughters.
Yep.
I don't know if they're basketball players, but I do know that he's a dad of daughters. That's pretty cool. All right. Your second one, always, your inner visionaries, no free lunch. What is that?
Oh my God, that's the best saying. That is like my favorite saying because it's so true. I think people think that stuff is free and there is always a price. And if you don't know what the price is, I think you got to think harder because you are absolutely paying for everything. There's always a trade-off. There's no free lunch. No matter what it is, good, bad, ugly, amazing, you're paying for it somehow. And I think that's an important thing to keep in the back of your mind in learning trade-offs.
Okay. And see solutions, not challenges.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? That huge mountain.
Yeah.
It's really not to me, it's not a mountain. I don't see the business that way. And I think that there's problems that come up every single day and of differing sizes. And it's really your job as an entrepreneur to be able to fix them and say that because I know the business inside and out, I'm ready to take any situation that comes to my plate and fix it and solve it and find a solution and execute on it. That's your job. And you can't see challenges as something to get you down. Rather, you almost have to get excited and be like, oh my God, something went wrong. I'm ready to fix it. My team is strong. My team is ready to fix it. And we're excited to lean in and show how good we are at finding solutions. Because if you don't have that mentality, it can get really tiring to have 22 calls, whatever it is, outside of Conti Forum, touching people's feet. It's not glamorous. And sometimes it looks like challenges, but how good will it feel when they pick up on call 23?
Yes.
And I think that's the mindset that you have to have.
Totally. So Coach Weinstein says he's so impressed with your energy and passion. Are your sales mostly online or in brick and mortar stores?
We're in 500 Dick's Sporting Goods stores across the country. And the majority of our sales are in store in those 500 stores, because I think that experience of being able to go in and feel the quality of the shoe, try it on, get your size. Once we get them in the shoes, people have been pretty excited. So we've seen a lot of success in those stores.
So I see behind you these like orange and white shoes or beige shoes. Where's the ones that have the tiger print and everything?
That's these ones.
Where? Oh, you can't tell. Okay, just so you know, from a marketing perspective, when you do this again, you need to have a shoe closer so we can see it. Is that the only way?
I'll keep this one here then on my desk. How about that?
Well, you're gonna have to put it on a little stand. Is that your only colorway?
We have 4 colorways that are out right now. We have this pink and orange. We have, please share the origin. Sorry, I'm getting some of these questions too. We have the white, we have black, and we have blue. And then we have some new colorways dropping in July. Okay, well, I have to tell you, I think they're pretty cool for lifestyle look. They look great. I mean, I know you don't want to hear that, but I think they look great. All right, Donna, if you want to wear them for lifestyle, I am not going to say no. I'm just saying in the design process, what we're really thinking about is on-court performance. But of course, if people want to wear them for anything, absolutely feel free.
Listen, if I'm going to be able to run, jump, skip, slide in my shoes, chances are they'd be good for a walk too. Chances are. Perfect. But anyway, Trisha wants to know, I think it's a great question. Moolah Kicks, where'd that come from? So moolah, slang for money. And the money aspect, let's start with the slang. The slang aspect is a positive nod to the street culture of women's basketball here in New York, right? The women's basketball that I grew up playing and still do. And then the money aspect signifies the financial opportunity
that we have been creating in women's basketball by being a for-profit brand solely focused in this category. What that means is that we're able to open up opportunities for players, for coaches, and for everyone in the space by giving them a brand where they have a voice, and that their dollars directly go back into more marketing for women's basketball, more products, and more visibility.
So I guess we want to get this really big, so you'll be able to be on maybe a WNBA jersey, or you'll be sponsoring a school team or something like that. Are you in? I know at the NIL level, the collegiate level, it's challenging, but how about that high schools and junior high schools? Are you able to go in and sponsor a couple? Are there Moolah Kicks?
Yeah, we have a ton of high schools really who purchase the sneakers in full. Yeah, and top schools are really excited.
Well, I think that's probably the best. Thanks, Katie. Just put up your website link so that people can
Thank
look
you,
at.
Katie.
I have to say, Natalie, you delight me in so many different ways, and I'm so really incredibly proud for you. And I think that you're at the beginning of something that's so exciting, and you've taken it, I think, further than a lot of people ever expected you would, except you. You knew you were going to get here, didn't you?
Absolutely. I think we just look one step ahead. I hope we're talking again in 5 years.
So
and I hope it's even bigger.
Sooner. I think I'm going to grab my producer Sherry. We're going to meet you in Manhattan. My playground was 13th Street and Horatio. I spent hours and hours in that park playing with my people, and I would welcome the opportunity to host you there. Although I haven't been there in quite a long while, but I wouldn't mind
that'd be awesome.
Support. I'd have to make sure that I brought a pair of your shoes, because I would definitely have to represent before I get there for sure.
Absolutely.
As far as that goes, I always take notes, and I think this is just great advice for anybody in anything, but especially if you're going to go into business, but even as a coach, right? Coach Weinstein, or as a principal, Joy, always be ready, right?
Always be ready. You don't know, the other team shows up with a player you're not expecting. I mean, you really have to be ready for any situation. The bus stops, the uniforms are all gone. You forget it. Stuff like that is happening all the time. And those are the moments that you can show what you're made of.
Too. There's always a price. Somehow you pay. I'd like my mother to understand that. She's always saying, well, can you do this and this? I'm like, yeah, I can do it, Mom, but just understand. She always thinks it's free. It's never free. It's never free. I think that was really, really wise. And I think I'm living by the motto that there's always opportunity, right? Don't let the challenges get you down. Let's get excited about them and then solve for that. I think all really, and a very upbeat message. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us on our 76th show.
Thank you.
76th show. That's really special. And I wanted to say we will be back for our season ending refresh. We will be refreshed one more time before the summer. And we will be with the incredible, for those of you who were at Gen Wow, who participated in some way, then you will know Daphne Jones. She is so amazing. She gave us valuable lessons during her workshop, Win When They Say You Won't. You know what? You probably could co-host that with her, Natalie. Win When You Say You Won't, or you'll probably enjoy it. Bring your friends. Her book by the same name is the perfect summer read, providing an inspiring guide to help anyone achieve the career of their dreams with a winning mindset, and a proven playbook. Don't miss her and us to refresh our season finale prior to the summer on June 21st at noon. We hope to see all of you there. Once again, Natalie, I am running. My shoes, my women's basketball, I can't even tell you how old. I'm embarrassed. I can't
do it. It's time for a refresh. Moolah Kicks refresh.
I love it. Natalie, thank you. Sherry Levin, our producer, all of us at Generation W, thank you all. And we'll see you on June 21st. Take care.